Hey, welcome back. Today, we are diving deep into an update from Kling that might just change the way we think about making videos. It's called Motion Control 3.0, and it's basically a new kind of digital puppetry. Just imagine being able to direct a character's every single move, every little expression, all without needing costumes or special effects. So let's get into it and break down how this actually works. This new tech brings up a huge question for all of us creators. We've seen that AI can generate these absolutely stunning visuals, right? But can it act? Can we, as the directors, get the kind of fine-tuned control we need to pull off a really convincing performance? That's the big question we're going to try and answer today. So the last version of Motion Control, it already made a massive splash online. You probably saw it everywhere. It kicked off this huge wave of creativity. People were making their dogs dance, dropping themselves into famous movie scenes. It was responsible for countless viral clips. It was without a doubt a lot of fun. But for filmmakers, the real question is, can this thing go beyond just making memes? Can it actually handle the small, subtle, nuanced performances you need for, say, a complicated dialogue scene? Because if it can, wow, that would be a total game changer for storytelling. So is it just a fun toy, or is it a serious filmmaking tool? Okay, before we jump into the tests, let's get on the same page about what this tech actually is. So what exactly is motion control? At its heart, Kling Motion Control is basically a type of motion capture. It lets you take a performance from any video, like, say, you acting out a scene in your living room, and then it transfers those exact body and facial movements onto almost any character you can dream up. Kling just maps your performance onto a still image and, boom, brings it to life. Okay, so keeping that in mind, what did Kling say they actually improved in this 3.0 update? Because on paper, these upgrades sound pretty significant. Let's take a look at what they're promising. So Kling is pointing to three major improvements. First up, better facial identity. This is huge because it's supposed to stop the character's face from getting all weird and distorted when they turn their head. Second, more accurate motion capture, which means the AI character should copy the actor's movements much more closely. And third, and this is a big one, character element binding. This lets you feed the AI more pictures of your character, so it gets a better, more consistent look from all angles. What's really cool is just how simple Kling has made all of this. Seriously, they have boiled the whole process down to just 5 steps. Let's walk through how you'd actually use it. The whole workflow is super straightforward. First, you just pick the 3.0 model. Then you upload the video of your performance. Next, you give it the image of your character. After that, you pick a few key settings, like orientation and whether you want to use those new binding elements we just talked about. And finally, you can add a little text prompt for stuff like the background. And then you just hit generate. Simple as that. All right, all that theory sounds great, but does it actually work in the real world? We've got to put these new features through their paces, stress test them a bit to see where they really shine, and maybe more importantly, where they fall apart. So the very first test was all about this one crucial and honestly kind of confusing setting, character orientation. The easiest way to think about it is like this. If you choose match the video, the actor is the boss. The AI is going to follow your performance to the letter. But if you choose match the image, then the picture you uploaded is the boss, and the AI will do its best to keep that original framing and composition. And, well, the results were pretty clear. The version that matched the video just held up way better. The motion was more natural, the face stayed consistent. So here's the key lesson. If you're going for nuanced acting, you're going to want to let the video performance lead the way. All right, next up, it was time to really push this thing to its limits. How does it handle moments that would have completely broken the older versions? Like a super fast head turn or an actor covering part of their face. And this shows the results perfectly. Motion Control 3.0 actually recovered amazingly well from head turns and even from a hand covering the face. That's a huge win. But it's not perfect. It turns out certain little mouth movements, like licking your lips, still seem to totally confuse the model and cause some pretty obvious glitches. So, with all that new knowledge, it was time for the final exam, using the tool for an actual cinematic moment. This means trying to recreate a short scene from a real story, something with dialogue and subtle emotional beats. The real deal. And this is where we had the biggest aha moment. The performance the AI generated was a nearly perfect copy of the human one. So the big takeaway here is that the quality of what you get out is completely dependent on the quality of what you put in. Bad acting is just going to give you a bad AI performance. The AI isn't an actor. It's a mirror. So after running all these tests, what's the final verdict? Where does Motion Control 3.0 really fit into an AI filmmaker's workflow? Is it actually a game changer? Here's the deal. It's best to think of it as a really powerful, specialized tool in your toolkit. It's not necessarily going to replace your standard text-to-video stuff. Instead, its real power comes in for those moments when you need a very specific acting choice, a certain emotional beat that the AI just won't give you on its own. It lets you step in and say, okay, I'll perform this part myself. So let's just lay it all out. What's it best for? Creating those really nuanced character performances, especially if you're working with great actors, and for high-energy scenes like dancing. And the limits? Well, you still have to swap in the voice manually. It doesn't do that for you. And of course, you absolutely need good acting to get good results. And we really have to land on this point, because if you remember one thing from this whole explainer, it should be this. No matter how incredible the technology gets, the performance itself, it comes from a person. This tool is an amplifier for human skill, not a replacement for it. This all leaves us with a really fascinating question to chew on. Tools like motion control seem to be pointing toward a future of hybrid filmmaking, where a real human performance gets seamlessly blended with the absolutely limitless visual power of AI. The real question is, what kind of new stories is this going to let us tell? That is a very exciting future to think about. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer.